It's the political free agents. Well, I guess it's the political free agent, but we're back. All right, so tonight is a little bit different. It's been one of those weeks. Everybody is really tied up right now, um, very busy in our normal work life and things like that. So it's a little difficult sometimes on these Wednesday episodes to actually get in front of the mic and take out time because life, man, life. So we try to be consistent with what's going on um, in our schedule, but sometimes hey, life happens. So I'm pretty sure everybody can understand that, right? But we enjoy doing this every Wednesday, 7 p.m. ish. Had technical difficulties tonight, so it's just one of those days, right? So not only uh, is it just me, and it's going to be a shorter episode, but technical difficulties, and we got started late. So it is what it is, man. Such is life. But what we wanted to do was just kind of go over as a reminder, because it's been a while that we've kind of done an episode where we talk about why we're here, right? Like what actually has us here talking about these things, and more importantly, why should you even listen to us? Why why do we matter in the grand scheme of all of the content that you're receiving? And this goes back to the reason why political free agents exist in the first place. And so we were talking about this in our private chat this week, and it was interesting just as a throwback. You just kind of think about how far we've come in terms of a group, the things that you know, we talk about on the side, the things that we've been through politically, so on and so forth. And one thing that stood out was, you know, we haven't talked about this in a while. And so I thought it'd be great for us to go back over kind of what this means and why we're even here in the vein of how can we help you? And I know that may sound like a little bit of a pitch about to come your way, and maybe so, maybe you could look at it that way. But I think it's interesting to take a look at the political free agents from the vein of how we can help um, everybody grow as as a collective. And what I mean by that is we all have a bit of a blinder on in some way. We were raised a certain way. Everybody has a little bit of a different viewpoint on how they view certain things. And that helps shape the way that we think about, um, everything, right? Like it helps, you know, change the way that we view any topic because we're viewing it from our lens. And so we all have this, what's called like an origin story, right? And so the origin story for political free agents, shockingly enough, is pretty similar from the perspective of where we came from and where we're at now. So I won't go through the whole background of mine in particular. Would love to do this with all the guys on, but what I wanted to do was just kind of look at how we, from a certain perspective, view different topics. And hopefully, if we can, we may get one of the guys to jump on as well while we're doing this. But the idea of being politically free, what does that even mean? Like, how can you at all be politically free? And if you can't be politically free, then how are you a political free agent, right? And the general idea of PFA is that you aren't beholden to a certain party, right? You don't. It doesn't mean that you don't have a side in any particular topic. It means that if situation one happens, you may agree with the position of the Republicans. Situation two, you may agree with the Democrats. Three, you may agree with the Green Party for the Libertarian Party, right? You're politically free because you're going to base your viewpoint on not team politics, but on what's best for the country and for your family and for yourself, right? So it kind of goes in a certain hierarchy. Of course, family is first because self-preservation, you, family, then your local politics, and then state, and then national politics. But if you're beholden to a party, you kind of feel like you need to rep that party, right? So you end up essentially, going from, um, I believe, situation, and I started to use actual topics, but let's just say situation X. I believe the right way to do this is Avenue A, right? We give money, we take money, whatever the case may be, right? And then for situation Y, we say, hey, I don't agree with this position. And what it does is it gives you the opportunity of freedom. Those team politics means that you ride with us no matter what because we have to win. And that's the problem largely that we discuss here, is that the team politics, it needs a winner, right? So let's be specific. Let's say impeachment, right? A lot of people didn't think Trump should be impeached just because he's on their team. A lot of people thought he should be impeached because he's not on their team. And that is about as deep as that went. And if you really dug into it, and we're not going to debate the politics of that impeachment, but if you really dug into it, you would have actually seen a little bit more about why or why not impeachment was a big deal. Or, any situation you can plug that same concept in. But whenever you're riding for team, you're looking for the talking points. Why exactly should this team win? They give you the talking points. If you're conservative, you see it on a conservative outlet, or conservative memes get passed around, and you just, you know, spew whatever they tell you to spew. That's what you boil your entire political existence, quote unquote, into, is basically saying what they want to say. You become their puppet. And I don't know about you, but what happened with me was I didn't like being a puppet. I was Bush, 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 rah, rah, rah. Yep, we got to go to Iraq. We got to go do all these things. Rah, 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 rah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Bush is coming back up. I don't think John Kerry is going to do what he needs to do with this war. We need Bush again. Bush, Bush, Bush. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we came up with Obama, and it's like, all right, let me see what you about. Okay, I like the messaging, hope and change. All right, cool, cool, cool. Yay, Obama, Obama, Obama. And then came up to the second one, was like, okay, got about 2 years, and then you lost your majority, and not really much is happening. Went the next 4 years and was like, yeah, not really much is happening right now. And so I realized largely these politics, there's going to be, not just in the simple sense of an ebb and a flow, but it's going to be a lot of things that are going to change the dynamics of the entire structure of what's happening. And what it boils down to is it really doesn't matter who was in there. All they're doing is playing a bit of a game. They're very myopic. They're looking at the very particular, very specific time length here. So for a president, they're looking at 4 years, right? So Obama stated it. He said one thing that I forgot who it was, his interview, they said, they asked him what was the biggest, I don't know, shocker or something when you first came into the presidency. And he said that it was that from the moment you get in, you're trying to get reelected. And if you think about that, there's some honesty that you don't always get from politicians. But when you think about that, that it's not them fighting for, specifically for what they think is right, you know, to help us. It's what can help them get elected. And when I say that, you may think, well, isn't that the same thing? Not really, because they will make a decision based on whether or not it is electable, in the sense of that particular outcome. Like, let's say, for instance, a Republican is in, right? So Trump is in. What if Trump decided, yeah, I think we need to defund the police, right? No matter where you stand on that topic, defund the police means reforming the budget. It's just terrible naming. I think they made a mistake with the phrasing there. But Trump says we're going to defund the police. The entire right side would have to make a decision on whether or not they support defunding the police. And I don't think that's the position they're going to take. So even if Trump in his heart feels like, yes, we need to defund the police, he's not, right? It just goes completely against it. So if you take another side, if you take the left side and the left, somebody comes in, let's say Biden comes in and wins. If Biden comes in and he determines it is, yeah, it's important, we need to build a wall. He's not going to do it because he's not going to get reelected if he runs on the same stuff that they went against the last time. So they're not doing what they believe is best for us. They're doing what they believe is best for them. And that goes not just from the president, Congress, and down and down and down. So why give them your loyalty? And I don't care what the party is. Why give them your loyalty? So we talk a lot in our chat, private chat about Candace Owens and man, I gotta remember this guy's name. The other guy, but they're behind this whole Blexit movement, which is basically a black exit from the Democratic Party. Stop giving them your vote. And I stand firmly behind the fact that it is flawed. That entire movement, from what I have seen of that movement, is flawed. And the reason it's flawed is because it's moving from Democrat to Republican. And they say the Democratic Party is the plantation. And I stand firmly behind, if you're moving from Democrat to Republican, you're moving from one plantation to another. And this isn't about where you vote, right? This what who you vote for doesn't determine your allegiance. And that's the problem, is that people are pledging allegiance to politicians, not to the ideas of America. So with the whole Brexit thing, it's like, nah, yeah, tell them to stop handing their vote over for free to the Democrats. Cool, I'm with you. Telling them to go vote conservative is like, no, no, you're trying to get them into the Republican Party, and that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so, you know, the political free agents comes from that perspective of, we need people to stop thinking in terms of party lines, and let's start looking at this thing, from a much broader perspective. And part of my origin story, and Chris's as well, is that we come from a very small town. It's 2,700 people, I think, right now. So that small of a town, it's very, you know, it's different to to see the world. Uh, you don't see the broadness of the world because you deal with such a small area. If you don't get out and you don't, let's say travel or go anywhere and spend time with anybody outside of your small area, you don't really see, how it actually operates, one, in big cities, and two, in other states, and definitely not in other countries. And so part of that was, I moved from that small town all the way to Phoenix, Arizona. And I had just like an eye opening experience, in the fact that I started seeing how, not just how other people thought and how the things that they were dealing with and those sort of things, but I was actually able to see that, oh, all the stuff that was important to my small town, it doesn't register over here in this other state. It's not an issue. So if you take a friend, I was having a discussion with on Facebook a while back, they were shocked that I had guns in the house. And they were like, "Do you know?" They started spitting all the stats out to me. Do you know the rates of, you know, issues that happen with guns in the house with kids and that sort of thing? And I was like, "Yeah, man, I know all that, but Texas, like, there's nothing abnormal about this in Texas." Chris had mentioned that in the last episode, we kept guns by the door. Like people walk by the front door and grab a rifle. You know, bullets were readily available. We were taught, the respect of guns and things like that. And so perspectives are different elsewhere. And so it's really good if you come at a problem without forcing your perspective on it and you're open and you're interested in learning. If you're tied to a party, you can't do that because you're not open to other options. And so I largely say we have really no, you know, hardcore Democrats and we have no hardcore Republicans. And the reason I say that, and you should think about it as well in terms of where you stand, you may be the most liberal socialist person in the world, but you're probably conservative when it comes to finances. Your own, your own finances. You're probably conservative in some way. And as you get older, you get a little more conservative because you have to start saving for kids, family, all this other thing. You have to start saving for. And on the flip side, you if you are super Republican, but you have some friends who have had to deal with, let's say, I don't know, prison, some getting caught up in the prison system, you may lean a little more liberal on some of those policies, right? So I don't think anybody is hardcore left or right across the board except for the complete zealots, right? So we need to get out of the team mentality. We need to start thinking about how we can, as a collective, hold our politicians to what they say they're going to do. Because, as I mentioned earlier, pledging allegiance to a politician is that's flipping the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be holding, allegiance to them. They should be working for us, right? So if they're working for us, why are we pledging allegiance to them? That dog don't hunt, right? And largely, you hear a lot of it now where you hear people say, "Well, I'm not really a Republican, but I'm for Trump." I mean, you're pledging allegiance to Trump. Like that's that's not that's not going to get you the results you want because they should be working for you. And maybe you feel like he is. Maybe so. But the point is, we shouldn't pledge allegiance to individuals. Once we do that, we lose the idea of what America is, and we're largely on the brink of losing our identity in the first place. If we keep going down this path of all of these rich politicians who are serving themselves, um, I mean, there's no telling where this is going to end up taking us. And so you can see that in a lot of the news. And I'm going to hesitate to actually dig into uh, all the news that we were planning because I would really like Mike and Chris on so that we can discuss these things. But you look into what's happening with the Fed and BlackRock and all these things and how the person that's running the Fed actually is invested in BlackRock and they're letting BlackRock make all this money by investing in their own investment portfolio. So the government's giving them free money to sell to themselves. And I mean, and then the ties of everybody, all the politicians, Trump and the Federal Reserve chairman and all of them, they're all tied to this. And it's like, you have to understand that there's a game being played. You need to figure out one, how to play it, and then two, how to change it. But while the game is going, you best believe you should learn how to play it because they're not going to stop. They're not stopping. They are going to play this game and they're going to do whatever they can do to continue gaining the wealth that they want to gain. It's just the way it is. That's the way it is. That's why you see Wall Street bankers end up being in administrations like Mnuchin right now. Trump picked a Wall Street banker. That's about as swampy as it gets. Obama picked Wall Street bankers. Bush, Wall Street bankers. Why? All they do is leave the administration and then go back after they've helped shape and maneuver and twist things in order to fit their pockets or to line their pockets in a certain way. Then Bernanke did it. I mean, the list goes on. So why pledge your allegiance to them? Why? That's why we're here. That's the long version. That's the long version of why we're here. Why pledge your allegiance to them? And largely, I always tell folks. I think humans in general. Um, I was watching Scott, the artist guy. I can't remember. Scott Adams, I think it is. And he was talking about how the human brain is wired to be a pattern recognition system. And so we all do it. I always say mine is on hyperdrive because I'm a programmer. I have to, you know, look at patterns. That's how you kind of debug stuff. You end up having to find patterns and find the outliers, all those sort of things, right? So the patterns that I noticed were same things that were going on under Clinton, or let's say even back to W. Bush. I didn't really pay attention during Reagan. I was less than 10. Um, but W. Bush, I kind of started paying attention a little bit. Clinton, I liked him because he played the saxophone. Not really the best political position, but uh, and then W and or HW, the first one, then W, and so I started seeing like, man, these things have kind of been going on like over and over and over, and you got Republicans who once had a position, now they don't. You got Democrats who once had a position, now they don't. And it's like, oh, so these things are just going in cycles, and they're just responding to whatever they feel the public political pressure is at that moment. So they're not loyal to fixing America for the sake of its citizens. They're just putting a little bit of salve on any issue, just long enough to where they can hold on to power. So, excuse me, for those of you on video, sorry, my nose is messing with me because as you can see, there's nothing on the wall. We have contractors in here, and this paint is is killing my nose. Um, but anyway, that's why we're here. Right, that's why we're here. So I'd highly suggest take the 10 episode challenge. Go back, listen to the last 10 episodes. We've been doing this now. I think it's been about 2-3 years now. Shoot, we had a little break in between as well, but I mean, man, we're looking at episode 71 right now, and there's a lot of content. And if you go back, there's even some episodes that we should probably put back online. But if you go back, like we've nailed so many things. We stated that the economy was going to plummet. We saw that coming. We called it. We warned you over and over and over. Even when we were getting laughed at and talked about with tin hats, like we called that. Like all the things that are happening in terms of how the Democrats are going to become the obstructionists in the way that the Republicans were under Obama. Like we called that. Like we've been nailing these perspectives because we talk about these things in a broader perspective outside of I need my party to win. So I say that as a little bit of a humble brag. It's a little bit of a humble brag. Okay, maybe it's not so humble, but I say that because we're in the position where we're paying attention to a lot of this. We're texting and talking 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and we're paying attention to things that it's very difficult to stay on top of. And so in that vein, we urge you to share the show. Let everybody else know about the show. Tell them to come join us. It's every Wednesday. It's 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, 2 p.m. on Sundays. All of our episodes can be found at politicalfreeagents.com. And to be frank, I don't think there's a show out there that is going to give you the content that we're giving you that allows you to see all these different perspectives. Number one, that's not going to give you a slant. And we're not trying to sell you anything. Not that we'll never take advertisers, but it'll never be from a perspective of trying to sell you something. We're not trying to get you into, some political position. We just want to provide you with an alternative to make you think. We want you to think about these things. And the areas that we may not get it right, we want you to talk to us. Speak back to us. Hit us up at PFA Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And also for all of our audio listeners, we thank you. We see the numbers growing every week, and we want you to continue to share the show out. But you can also catch us on video. We are all still building out our studios and those sort of things. So we're not where we want to be just yet, but we're still working on it. So Sunday's episode, you should see my back wall should be quite a bit different. We'll have some of the stuff back there, but share the show out. Catch us on YouTube as well. Go to politicalfreeagents.com/live. You can listen live. Join in on the chat. We'll talk back with you. Maybe we'll take a question live. They will start doing those things. Hit us up. We're looking forward to it. But we are the Political Free Agents. We'll catch you on this Sunday. And we're out.